Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to be pulling the alternator out of my 2007 Grand Sport. It isn't a particularly involved job.
We need to go on a quick adventure.
So this isn't going to be a very fancy video, it's just going to be a real-time cut of me doing the job. I decided to put this together since it's very common for there to be alternator issues with these cars, so it might help someone in the future.
I've been waiting for you.
We need to remove the covers off the injector rails to get started. Getting the injectors out of the way is really easy on this car. They're non-return fuel lines and they're on a flexible line, so once you get them unbolted you can just bend them out of the way and put them somewhere convenient.
Everywhere they go, it's like a blanket for the earth. But they're so far away from what they shelter. Sometimes they fall and leave their mark upon the ground. But it's alright, they will appear again, just like us. The sun has set, and so the sky is now on fire. And as it burns, I wonder what will guide us. But now I know that there is light beyond the clouds. And when they glow, I see the stars shine through them. Don't fade away. It's not your place.
the manifold sits on some studs and is held down with some nuts, which makes it really easy to remove. You just go around, remove all the nuts, and remove the air lines, and it's pretty easy to get off.
You had to leave me, I know that feeling. We're wild like animal eyes. So under meteors, we made a promise that night. It's been a long time, and I'm still waiting. I know it's twisted inside, but when there's meteors, I always listen for your You had to leave me, I know that feeling. We're wild like animal eyes. So under meteors, we made a promise that night. It's been a long time, and I'm still waiting. I know it's twisted inside, but when there's me
will need to unplug the MAF and the E-throttle in order to get the manifold out. This isn't particularly difficult, but it is fiddly. There are some release clips on the sides of the plugs for both components, which can be a bit difficult to depress. It requires almost no force to unplug these, so don't force it if you're struggling to get the clips unclipped. Just keep at it until you get it correct, and then the plug will come off.
You had to leave me. I know that feeling. You had to leave me. I know that feeling.
Once you have your manifold out of the way, the first thing you need to do is inspect the ports to make sure you haven't knocked anything into them or dropped anything, and then immediately following that you need to block the ports with some paper or a rag, whatever's convenient, just to make sure that you don't drop anything into the cylinder while you're doing any work or get any debris in there while you're cleaning and moving things around, because engines don't really like stuff like that. Since it'll be a few weeks before I get the alternator back in, I like to store all the nuts, washers, or anything that I've removed that's small in labelled Ziploc bags. That way I can remember where the components go or at what stage they were used in the installation. For this particular job, it is actually really straightforward, so I only have 2 Ziploc bags, one for all the bolts holding down manifold components, and one for all the bolts and nuts holding the alternator in. You will need to loosen some clips holding one of the oil lines in place just so you can bend it out of the way, otherwise it'll foul on your tooling when you try to remove the bolt holding the alternator in. The main issue so far as I can tell with the charging system in these cars is related to a loose battery terminal or a loose positive line against the firewall in the engine bay. If these lines are loose, the alternator will continually detect a bad charge in the battery and will always be trying to charge it. The worst case scenario, which happened to my alternator, is that it will melt out the stator. So if you do have a failed alternator, it is worth checking these connections so that you don't melt out your nice new alternator. While I have the space, I'll be cleaning the engine bay, replacing vacuum lines. I'll also be removing the valve covers and replacing the gaskets, and I'll be respraying them with wrinkle paint to improve the old chipped finish. Stay tuned for an upcoming video on how to do wrinkle paint correctly.